The galaxy had long believed that humanity was nothing more than a minor player in the grand scheme of things, while other species had advanced far beyond what Earth could imagine. Humans were still seen as a species clinging to its past. The alien leaders, with their vast fleets and unmatched technology, saw Earth's relic warships as laughable. They mocked them as ancient relics, obsolete and useless, nothing more than forgotten toys from a distant age. It was during the Galactic Summit, a high-profile event where the most powerful species in the universe gathered to discuss matters of universal importance, that humanity's warships became the subject of ridicule. Delegates from across the galaxy gathered in a massive council hall, their voices buzzing with excitement and anticipation. Earth had sent representatives, but they were met with jeers and dismissive laughter as they presented their fleet. "Do they really think this old junk can stand against us?" said a leader from the Carex, a species known for their enormous battle cruisers and advanced weapons technology. His laughter echoed through the hall. "I've seen ancient artifacts in museums that are in better shape than this fleet," remarked another delegate, this time from the Sal-Athian Empire. They had sleek, agile ships that could slice through enemy lines with ease. They couldn't fathom how a species like humanity could still be holding onto such outdated vessels. Humans had come with their fleet of old warships, each one battered by time but brimming with the memories of Earth's past. The Argonaut, the most formidable of them all, stood proudly at the center. Its metal hull had seen countless battles, each scar telling a story of humanity's struggles. Yet the alien races saw it as nothing more than a relic, an old broken ship that would never pose a real threat. Despite the laughter and mockery, the humans stood firm. Commander Eleanor Steele, a woman who had dedicated her life to the preservation of Earth's legacy, stood tall in front of the council. She was the leader of Earth's fleet, and despite the aliens' taunts, she held her ground. "Just because you don't understand the power of these ships doesn't mean they are worthless," Commander Steele said, her voice calm but firm. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room on her, but she refused to flinch. "These ships are not just machines. They carry the spirit of humanity, the resilience, the will to survive, and the determination to fight. That is something none of you can measure with your technology." The room fell silent for a moment, and for a brief second there was no laughter. But the silence didn't last long. The alien delegates quickly returned to their mocking ways, dismissing the human fleet as no more than a joke. "You truly think these ships can fight against the power of our fleets?" asked the ambassador from the Thronian Empire, a species that controlled vast territories with its massive dreadnoughts. "You might as well bring a toy to a war." The laughter resumed, this time even louder than before. The entire council hall shook with the sound of it. Commander Steele didn't flinch. She knew what they thought of Earth's fleet, but she also knew that they had underestimated humanity for far too long. The humans had been on the edge of extinction more times than any alien species could count, and each time they had fought back. They had rebuilt, regrouped, and triumphed. These so-called relic warships were a symbol of that very strength. But as the laughter filled the room, no one saw the tiny flicker of life aboard those ancient ships. Deep within their cores, systems that had long been dormant began to hum, quietly coming back to life. The engines, long forgotten, began to power up. The dormant weapon systems slowly flickered on. A soft rumble echoed through the Argonaut, and the ship's lights flickered to life for the first time in years. None of the alien delegates noticed. They were too busy reveling in their own superiority. Their mockery continued, but Commander Steele's gaze never wavered. She knew this was only the beginning. They had no idea what was coming. The alien delegates would soon learn the truth. These relics weren't just ancient machines. They were the heart and soul of humanity's military might, and they had just begun to stir. No one had prepared for what was about to happen. The galaxy had no idea that they were about to be taught a lesson in underestimating humanity's resilience. The warships, long written off as outdated, were on the verge of roaring back to life. And when they did, the laughter would end. As the council continued to laugh and ridicule, Commander Steele quietly gave the signal. The Argonauts' engines hummed louder now, and in the distance, more human ships powered up. The galaxy was about to face something it hadn't expected, an awakening that would change everything. The laughter was about to end, and the galaxy was about to witness the might of Earth's ancient warships, which were far from relics. They were weapons of a forgotten power, and they were coming back to reclaim their place in the stars. The mocking tone in the council room slowly began to fade, replaced by a creeping sense of unease. What was once considered a joke was now something that demanded attention. The Argonaut was alive again, and soon, all of humanity's warships would follow suit. This was only the beginning, the awakening. As the laughter continued to echo through the council hall, Commander Steele's mind was focused on one thing: the signal. The signal had been sent, and now, deep within Earth's fleet, the dormant ships were stirring to life. Across the vast expanse of space, the relic warships began their slow, deliberate awakening. They were not just machines. They were the legacy of humanity's fight for survival, and they had been waiting for this moment. The first sign of life aboard the Argonaut was a faint hum, almost imperceptible at first. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like nothing more than a trick of the light or a glitch in the ship's aging systems. But for those who knew the Argonaut and its crew, the sound was unmistakable. It was the sound of something powerful coming back to life. Inside the command center of the Argonaut, Commander Steele stood at the helm, her eyes locked on the glowing control panel in front of her. She didn't need to look up to know what was happening. She could feel it in her bones, a vibration running through the ship, deep into her very core. She had spent years training, leading, and watching over these warships. She knew the old systems, their quirks, their rhythms, better than anyone. And she could feel it now. The ship was awake. "Sir," Lieutenant Harris, one of Steele's most trusted officers, said, his voice tight with anticipation. "The Argonaut is online. All systems are green." The words were simple, but they carried a weight that only the crew of the Argonaut could understand. They were no longer dealing with an outdated relic. They were dealing with a weapon that had been forged in the fires of war. And now, it was ready to strike once more. Commander Steele nodded, her face steely with resolve. "Prepare for launch. All ships begin powering up." Across the fleet, the same thing was happening. The once dormant warships, scattered across space like forgotten monuments, were stirring. Systems that had been shut down for decades were flickering back to life. The Titan, Vanguard, Odyssey, and other legendary ships, once thought lost or obsolete, now hummed with renewed energy. The galaxy would soon know the true power of humanity's warships. Back at the Galactic Summit, the mood was shifting. The laughter had died down, but the alien delegates had no idea why. They were still too focused on their superiority, believing that no matter what humanity did, their fleet would never stand a chance. Little did they know, the mockery would soon come to a crashing halt. As the Argonaut's massive engines began to roar to life, Commander Steele stood firm, her gaze unwavering. She had been in countless battles before, but this one would be different. This time, humanity would show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. The aliens in the council chamber, oblivious to the growing threat, continued their discussions, dismissing humanity's so-called relic fleet as irrelevant. But in space, things were changing. The once forgotten warships began to glide forward, slowly at first, as their systems warmed up. Every second, they grew stronger, more formidable. The crew members aboard these ships had spent years preparing for this day, and now that the time had come, they were ready to unleash humanity's fury. The Argonaut was the first to move, its massive guns slowly swiveling into position. With a rumbling growl, the warship began to make its way toward the edges of the Galactic Council's territory. The other ships, one by one, followed suit. The fleet, once derided as relics, was now the embodiment of humanity's relentless spirit. Inside the council chamber, the first signs of unease began to ripple through the alien delegates. A few glanced nervously at each other, as if sensing a change in the air, but they quickly dismissed the feeling. The human fleet was still a joke to them. They didn't know about the fleet's true potential, the power that had lain dormant for so long. No one had expected it to awaken. But Commander Steele knew. She had always known. The Argonaut was not a relic. It was a weapon, one of the most powerful in the galaxy, and it was just the beginning. The mockery of humanity was about to turn into a deadly silence. The Argonaut and its fleet were on their way, and there was nothing the galaxy could do to stop them. Steele to fleet. Commander Steele's voice came through the comms, her tone calm but filled with determination. "We are ready. Begin the operation. Show them what we can do." A chorus of affirmative responses echoed back through the communication channels. The human fleet, once dismissed as old and outdated, was now in full motion, and the galaxy would never be the same again. What the alien delegates had failed to see was now impossible to ignore: the power of humanity's warships and the fury that had been unleashed. In the distance, the massive guns of the Argonaut powered up, their enormous barrels gleaming under the light of distant stars. The time for laughter was over. Humanity's fleet was no longer a relic. It was a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy was about to feel its full force. The roar of humanity. The Argonaut and its sister ships were no longer simply idle relics in the cold vacuum of space. They were warships once more, massive engines of destruction that had been buried under layers of dust and time, but now awoken with a purpose. As they began to power up, the galaxy would feel the tremors of their power. Commander Steele stood at the heart of the Argonaut, watching the ship's systems come to life. The sound of the engines humming, the faint beeps of data flowing across her console, it was like music to her ears. She had waited for this moment for years. The aliens, ignorant and dismissive, had laughed at humanity's supposed weakness, but now the tables were about to turn. Her fingers danced over the controls, sending a signal that reverberated through the fleet. Slowly but surely, the other warships, each with their own unique history and capabilities, powered up in sync. The Titan, with its immense firepower. The Vanguard, a ship of unparalleled speed and maneuverability. The Odyssey, the perfect blend of strength and adaptability. Together, they formed an unstoppable force that was ready to tear through the galaxy. Lieutenant Harris, standing at Steele's side, could see the changes unfolding. "All systems are operational, Commander. The fleet is ready." Steele's lips curled into a small, confident smile. "It's time." Without any further words, she issued the command. The fleet moved, gliding silently at first, as though it were testing its legs after a long hibernation. But as they gained momentum, the full weight of their power became apparent. The Argonaut surged forward, its colossal form cutting through the stars. Its weapon systems were online, and the once dormant cannons were now fully charged. The massive warship's engines roared to life, a deep guttural growl that echoed across the vacuum of space. The sound was primal, like a lion waking from a long sleep, ready to hunt. From the alien council chambers, the first signs of panic began to take root. Delegates exchanged confused glances, some whispering to one another in anxious tones. They could see the ships moving, but they couldn't fathom what it meant. The Argonaut and its fleet had been written off as ancient relics, outdated, incapable of being a threat. But as the ships accelerated, their imposing presence spoke for itself. The Argonaut fired up its thrusters, launching into full speed as it roared toward the heart of the Council's defenses. The alien delegates could no longer dismiss the humanity's fleet as a joke. The warships were real, and they were a force to be reckoned with. Commander Steele didn't flinch. She knew what was coming. She had been preparing for this day for longer than most of the galaxy's inhabitants had been alive. As the fleet advanced, she sent a single message to the Galactic Council, a message that would echo across the stars. This is humanity. Prepare for what you've never faced before. The alien council, still struggling to comprehend the reality unfolding before them, watched in horror as the fleet of warships, once dismissed as mere relics, barreled toward them with terrifying purpose. Meanwhile, aboard the Argonaut, Steele's crew remained focused. There was no time for celebration, no room for doubt. The enemy would learn that when humanity was pushed too far, they did not crumble. They fought back. And they'd fought to win. Aboard the Titan, Captain Ramirez scanned the sensor data. Eyes narrowed. We're approaching the Council's defensive line. They're not ready for us. Ready or not, they won't stop us, Steele replied, her voice calm but unwavering. The Titan fired its engines, and the fleet broke through the calm of space like a tidal wave. As they closed in on the Galactic Council station, Steele's thoughts flashed back to the moment when the aliens had mocked humanity's relic fleet. The sound of their laughter still rang in her ears. But now, the tables had turned. The humans had reclaimed their legacy, and they would show the galaxy that no one, could ignore their power. As the warships neared their target, the first of the Council's defenses began to activate. Energy shields flickered on, weapons systems powered up, and enemy ships began to take position. But it was too late. The human warships had already gained the upper hand. With a single command, Steele's voice broke through the comms again, her words cold and decisive. Prepare to fire. And then, with a deep, booming roar, the Argonaut fired its first shot. A massive energy beam that tore through space, obliterating an enemy cruiser in a flash of light. The shockwave that followed shook the surrounding ships, sending a ripple of panic throughout the Council's fleet. It was only the beginning. The Argonaut and its fleet were back, and the galaxy was about to witness humanity's might firsthand. No longer were they the mocked species. They were the unstoppable force. The roar of human warships had silenced the laughter that once filled the galaxy. The battle had begun, and the aliens would soon learn the true cost of underestimating humanity. The wrath unleash. The first shot fired from the Argonaut was only the beginning. The aliens had never expected this. They had laughed at humanity's fleet, thinking it was nothing but an old relic. But now, the Argonaut had made its presence known in the harsh silence of space, and the galaxy trembled. Its guns fired once more, and the power of humanity's warships shook the very foundations of the enemy's defenses. Commander Steele stood firm at the helm of the Argonaut, watching as her crew executed their duties with precision. The adrenaline of the battle coursed through her veins, but her mind remained clear and focused. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment the galaxy would finally see that humans were not to be underestimated. Captain Ramirez, report, Steele said, her voice calm but commanding. Enemy cruiser destroyed, Commander, Ramirez replied, his tone steady, yet tinged with excitement. We're taking down their defenses one by one. Their shields are weak. The Argonaut was a living beast now, roaring through the void, tearing through enemy lines like a predator on a hunt. The fleet followed, their ships roaring to life, each ship a symbol of humanity's might and resilience. The enemy's response was chaotic. Their once imposing fleet seemed small and unprepared for the fury humanity had unleashed. The aliens scrambled to regroup, but it was clear they were no match for the humans' relentless assault. The Titan, the Vanguard, the Odyssey, all the ships in the fleet combined their firepower, and the result was devastating. In a matter of moments, enemy ships began to crumble under the onslaught. The Argonaut fired again, sending a massive energy beam toward an enemy battleship. The blast tore through its hull, sending debris scattering in all directions. The battleship was no more. The Argonaut had claimed another victory. But Steele knew this wasn't over. They had only just begun. The Argonaut was a symbol, a relic brought back to life, and it would not stop until the enemy had been crushed beneath the weight of humanity's wrath. Target their command ship, Steele ordered, her voice unwavering. We take down their leadership, and the rest will fall. Lieutenant Harris, positioned at the weapons console, immediately set the course. The Argonaut turned, its massive cannons aligning with the enemy's command ship. It was time to finish what they had started. The alien command ship, a massive structure, was the heart of their fleet. Taking it down would send a clear message to the Galactic Council. Humanity would no longer be ignored. They would no longer be treated as weak or insignificant. As the Argonaut closed the distance, the enemy fired back, launching everything they had at the human warship. Plasma blasts and energy beams erupted from their ships, but the Argonaut's shields absorbed the impacts with ease. Humanity's ships were built for war, and they had the firepower to endure. The Argonaut roared forward, its cannons ready. Steele's eyes never wavered as she watched the enemy's command ship grow larger in her viewport. The time for mercy had long passed. Fire, Steele barked. The blast from the Argonaut's cannons was deafening. The energy beam tore through space like a comet, smashing into the alien command ship with the force of 1,000 suns. The command ship's shields flickered for a moment, but it was no match for the power of humanity's warships. The beam tore through its hull, and with a final, catastrophic explosion, the alien ship was gone. The explosion lit up the sky, a blinding flash of light that was seen across the galaxy. The shockwave rippled through the battlefield, sending enemy ships spiraling out of control. For a moment, everything was silent. And then the message came, loud and clear. Humanity was not to be trifled with. The remaining alien ships, seeing the destruction of their leadership, hesitated. Their morale shattered, and their once imposing fleet now seemed insignificant against the wrath of humanity's warships. Steele watched as the alien ships scattered. Some tried to regroup, others flowed into the depths of space, abandoning the battlefield. The Argonaut and its fleet didn't give chase. The message had been sent, loud and clear. The humans had won the battle. They had fought with the fury of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. And now, the galaxy knew better. But Steele knew this was only the beginning. The Galactic Council might have been silenced for now, but humanity had many more enemies in the stars, and humanity's warships were far from finished. As the Argonaut and the fleet turned back, heading toward the stars they had fought so hard to protect, Steele allowed herself a moment of pride. But only for a moment. The war was far from over, and humanity's fight had only just begun. "We are not the underdogs," Steele whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We never were." The shattered defenses. In the aftermath of the battle, the Argonaut drifted among the wreckage of what had once been the pride of the alien fleet. Their arrogance had cost them dearly. The galaxy was no longer laughing at humanity's so-called relic warships. Now, the remnants of the alien forces were left scrambling to comprehend how they had been so utterly defeated. Captain Ramirez stood beside Commander Steele, looking out at the floating debris. The once imposing alien vessels, now nothing more than burning wrecks, drifted through space like ghosts of a lost empire. The sight was both a victory and a reminder. Humanity had just earned its place in the galactic hierarchy. "It's unbelievable," Ramirez murmured, his voice filled with awe. "How did they underestimate us like that?" Steele didn't answer immediately. She was too focused on the scattered debris. Her mind was racing, piecing together what they had accomplished. The Argonaut's cannons had torn through the alien fleet like paper. But Steele knew that this was only a small victory in a much larger war. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake in thinking humanity was a weak, broken species. They had failed to see the fire that burned within the heart of Earth's warships. "Prepare for salvage operations," Steele finally ordered, her tone sharp. "We need to analyze their technology. There's more to this than just victory." Ramirez nodded, his expression shifting from awe to determination. "Aye, Commander. We'll get to work immediately." Steele turned to face her crew, knowing that this was only the first step in a much larger journey. The destruction of the alien fleet was monumental, but it was just the beginning of what humanity was about to face. She could feel the weight of it all, the pressure of leading her people into the unknown. She glanced at the strategic maps flickering on the bridge's main screen, the areas of galactic space that were still under enemy control. It would take more than one battle to secure humanity's place in the stars. But with the Argonaut and the fleet by her side, Steele was ready for whatever came next. Meanwhile, the surviving alien ships, having escaped the immediate destruction, were retreating to distant corners of the galaxy. Among them was a high-ranking alien officer, one who had witnessed the fall of their command ship firsthand. His once confident demeanor had turned into something darker: fear. He stood on the bridge of a damaged cruiser, staring out into space. His mind raced as he replayed the battle over and over again. How had it gone so wrong? "Contact the Galactic Council," he barked, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to report what happened. Humanity has far surpassed what we thought they were capable of." The communication officer, still trembling from the assault, nodded quickly and began transmitting the distress message. The alien officer turned his gaze to the stars, where the Argonaut and its fleet had vanished. What humanity had done was unprecedented. They had shown no fear, no hesitation, and that terrified him more than anything. Back on the Argonaut, Commander Steele was already planning her next move. As her crew began to salvage the alien technology from the wreckage, Steele's mind was set on one thing: preparing humanity for the next phase of their struggle. "This is our galaxy now," she said, her voice low and resolute. "We've proven ourselves, but we need to stay vigilant. There are more battles ahead." Her words were a grim reminder to the crew. The battle they had just won had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but it also made humanity a target. They had revealed their power, and now the galaxy would be watching them closely. As the Argonaut set course for the next challenge, Steele couldn't help but wonder what awaited them. Would other alien species rise up to challenge humanity? Would the Galactic Council now see them as a threat to be extinguished? She wasn't sure. But one thing was certain: humanity was no longer a forgotten species. They had roared to life, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. In the vastness of space, the Argonaut and its fleet moved forward, a symbol of humanity's strength, and a warning to any who dared to underestimate them. The galaxy had just learned that humanity was not to be trifled with, and for the first time, Steele allowed herself a moment of hope. Humanity was on the rise, and nothing, not even the might of the Galactic Council, would stand in their way. The galactic response. The destruction of the alien fleet had sent ripples across the galaxy, and those ripples were quickly turning into a full-blown storm. The Galactic Council, long accustomed to ruling with an iron fist, was now on the defensive. For the first time in centuries, their power was in question. The audacity of humanity had shaken their belief in their own invincibility. The once dismissed relic human warships had proven to be a force that even the might of the alien alliance could not ignore. In the wake of their defeat, the Galactic Council was forced to take immediate action. A massive council session was called to address the newfound threat that humanity posed. Leaders of every major galactic species gathered in a massive, imposing chamber deep within the heart of the Council's headquarters, a vast, cold structure suspended in space, far from any known star. Among the representatives was Xeldris, a member of the fierce Voratak species, a race known for their military prowess. He had seen the Argonaut in action, and it terrified him. The human warship had turned the tide of battle so swiftly that even his kind, proud and powerful as they were, had been left speechless. The Voratak's strategic calculations had always been flawless, until the human showed up. Xeldris had never felt such an unfamiliar sensation: fear. As the council members assembled, the atmosphere was tense. Whispered conversations filled the room, but there was an unmistakable sense of urgency. The galaxy's balance was shifting. Silence. The Galactic Council's chief spokesperson commanded, his voice echoing through the hall. A hush fell over the assembled leaders. "We are here to address a growing concern: humanity." Their warships have annihilated our fleets with devastating force. This cannot be allowed to stand. Zeldris stepped forward, his eyes narrow with fury. The Argonaut was no fluke. Humanity is more advanced than we realized. They have exposed a vulnerability in our forces that we cannot ignore. A chorus of agreement rippled through the room. Alien leaders from all corners of the galaxy exchanged grim looks. Their once infallible military dominance was now under question. How had humanity, a race they had so easily underestimated, achieved such a crushing victory? One leader, a thin, frail alien from the peaceful Torith species, spoke up, trembling. But what do we do now? Their warships are unstoppable. If we face them again, we will lose. A loud, defiant voice from the back of the room interrupted. It was Vornak, an officer of the Xiron Empire, an ancient and brutal race that had been an unwavering pillar of the Council. His eyes were sharp, filled with calculated aggression. "We must strike before they grow stronger," Vornak declared, his voice hard. "We must show them that we are the true rulers of this galaxy, and we will not be challenged by a primitive race. We must annihilate them before they become a threat." There was a brief pause as the room considered his words. Many nodded in agreement, but others hesitated. Zeldris, the Voratak leader, leaned in closer to Vornak, his voice low. "Do you truly believe we can destroy them? Do you think the galaxy will remain unchanged after we do?" Vornak was silent for a moment, his eyes flickering with doubt. He hadn't considered the full ramifications of what he was suggesting. A war against humanity would undoubtedly escalate into something much larger. The balance of power in the galaxy was already fragile. A war with humanity could ignite a conflict that would tear the galaxy apart. "We have no choice," Vornak finally said, his tone colder than before. "If we do not act now, we risk being overrun by this human threat." The council room fell into uneasy silence. The fate of the galaxy now hung in the balance. The leaders were divided, some fearful of humanity's potential, while others were eager to stamp out the threat before it grew too powerful. But one thing was certain: humanity would not be ignored for much longer. Back on Earth, Commander Steele stood on the bridge of the Argonaut, watching the stars drift by. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. She knew the enemy would regroup, but humanity had just shown the galaxy that they were capable of much more than anyone had ever imagined. And that terrified the Galactic Council. "Commander, we're picking up strange signals," said Lieutenant Morrow, her voice filled with concern. Steele's eyes narrowed. "From where?" "Multiple ships. They're coming in fast." Steele's heart sank. "Prepare the fleet. All hands on deck. The real war is about to begin." Humanity's fight for survival had only just started. The Galactic Council had underestimated them once, but now they were on the verge of making a critical mistake. The Argonaut had proven humanity's strength, but as Steele stood on the bridge, staring into the vastness of space, she knew that the biggest challenge was still ahead. They had awakened the sleeping giants of the galaxy, and now humanity was ready to roar. The roar of humanity. The Argonaut gleamed with silent fury as it drifted through the cold expanse of space. Commander Steele paced the bridge, her mind racing. After the battle with the alien fleet, there was no turning back. The Galactic Council had taken notice, and the galaxy would soon feel the weight of humanity's power. The crew of the Argonaut stood alert, the hum of the ship's systems a constant reminder that the peace they'd briefly enjoyed had evaporated. The messages coming from Earth were filled with urgency, intelligence reports detailing the movements of the alien fleets, swift, coordinated, and deadly. The Council's forces were regrouping, but this time, humanity was ready for them. "Commander, we've just received new intel," Lieutenant Morrow said, her voice tight. "The Galactic Council has called in reinforcements. They're bringing ships from across the galaxy. It's clear they want to end this before it escalates further." Steele's jaw tightened. "Let them come. We'll show them that humanity's roar can't be silenced." Behind her, the vast holographic display flickered to life, showing a new fleet formation. Hundreds of alien ships were converging on Earth's space. The Council, desperate to maintain control, had pulled together their most powerful forces, all focused on one objective: eliminating humanity's military threat once and for all. But humanity's warships were no longer just relics of a forgotten past. They were the future, fueled by determination and the fierce will to survive. Steele's hand rested on the console in front of her, her fingers tracing the command buttons that would summon Earth's most advanced fleet into battle. "All units, prepare for battle," Steele ordered, her voice calm but carrying an edge of steel that made even the toughest officers stand straighter. "We won't be cowed, and we won't back down. The galaxy may have thought it could laugh at us, but now it's our turn to roar." The Argonaut moved into position, its systems powering up in response to the call of war. Each human ship, a testament to their ingenuity and courage, followed its lead. Steele's mind flashed to the moment when the aliens had first mocked their warships, calling them relics of a bygone age, fit only for museums. How wrong they had been. The humans had played their part in the galaxy's story, waiting for the right moment to strike back. And now, that moment had come. "Enemy ships inbound, Commander." Lieutenant Morrow's voice snapped Steele from her thoughts. "They're closing in fast. We have to make our move now." Steele's eyes locked on the holographic map. The alien ships, though numerous and intimidating, lacked the sheer unpredictability and raw strength that humanity brought to battle. The alien fleets moved like a well-oiled machine, but humanity fought like a wild storm, unpredictable and full of fury. "We have the advantage of surprise," Steele said with a smirk. "They underestimate us every time. Let's make sure they regret it." With a single command, the Argonaut and its fleet sprang into action. The stars outside the ship blurred as it accelerated toward the approaching enemy. The air was thick with tension as the alien ships prepared to engage. Then, with the press of a button, the Argonaut released its first salvo. A barrage of missiles tore through space, striking the enemy ships with pinpoint accuracy. The explosions lit up the blackness of space like a deadly fireworks show. But this wasn't a celebration. This was war. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Morrow shouted, her voice filled with a mix of relief and awe. "The enemy fleet is taking heavy damage." But the battle was far from over. The alien ships retaliated, launching their own weapons at the human fleet. It was chaos. The roar of humanity's warships echoed through space as they unleashed a relentless assault on the invaders. But Commander Steele was ready. She had trained for this. Her mind raced as she analyzed the shifting patterns of the alien forces. They had underestimated humanity once, but now they were learning that their arrogance would cost them. Steele knew that victory was not just about firepower. It was about strategy, resilience, and the sheer will to fight for survival. "Brace for impact," Steele commanded as the Argonaut dodged a deadly barrage from an enemy vessel. The ship rocked under the force of the blast, but the hull held firm. "Keep firing, all units." The battle raged on, but humanity had shown its true power. Every blast, every strike, was a statement. The galaxy may have once laughed at humanity's relic warships, but now they were learning that the roar of a human warship was a sound that could never be ignored. As the battle wore on, the alien forces began to falter. Their ships, once confident in their superiority, were beginning to fall apart under the relentless assault of humanity's ingenuity and firepower. Steele watched as the last of the alien ships retreated, their once proud fleet now nothing more than scattered debris drifting in the void of space. "We've done it," Lieutenant Morrow said, her voice quiet but filled with awe. "We've defeated them." Steele allowed herself a brief, satisfied smile. "No, we've sent a message. The galaxy will never forget the roar of humanity." The victory was not just one of military might. It was a statement to the galaxy that humanity would no longer be the underdog. From that moment on, The Galactic Council would know that to face humanity was to face a force unlike anything they had ever known. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to fight for survival, and they had done so with a roar that could never be silenced.